Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this Friday, the 27th of May, 2023. Actually, it's not Friday, the 27th of May, it's actually Saturday, the 27th of May. But we're just literally not even 1 o'clock yet. So it's a lot later than I would like to do it. But you know, when you've got a family, you can't always do things at the times you would like. Today, I would like to read you from this lovely little book, Mercy Oceans, Hidden Treasures, by Mawlana Shaykh Nazim Adil al-Haqqani. This is one of the very early books of Mawlana Shaykh Nazim. Nice picture of Sheikh Abdullah Fayez Dagestani in there, who was Mawlana Shaykh Nazim's Sheikh, who Mawlana Shaykh Nazim called Grand Sheikh, and a lovely picture of Mawlana Shaykh Nazim from the 1980s. Um, Alhamdulillah. I think this book was probably printed in 1980 or so. Let me just check. Has it got a date in it? Ah, I thought it did, but can't find it. Oh, doesn't matter. But I'm pretty sure this was from about 1980 or 1981 or thereabouts. It's obviously been out of print for a very long time. And along with these very early books of Mawlana Shaykh Nazim, if you see here, Mawlana Shaykh Nazim actually had put on the books the teachings of Sultan ul-Awliya Sheikh Abdullah ad-Dagestani, which is Mawlana Shaykh Nazim's Sheikh. So although actually these are Mawlana Shaykh Nazim's talks, he didn't actually say they're his teachings. He said they're the teachings of my Sheikh. And this is a traditional way within Tariqah. We are people who transmit the teachings of our sheikhs, and our sheikhs were people who transmitted the teachings of their sheikhs. And this goes back generation back to the Sahaba Ikram, who they told people they're transmitting the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. So I'm saying here I'm passing on the teachings of Mawlana Shaykh Nazim. But Mawlana Shaykh Nazim was saying, I'm passing on the teachings of Grand Sheikh. Grand Sheikh was his affectionate way of referring to Sheikh Abdullah Fayez Dagestani, who was from Syria. So, you know, this is what all of Sheikhs traditionally used to do. There were not people who said, this is my teaching as such. Even though all of them would have had their own slant on teachings, they would have had their own uniqueness, which was a little bit different from their sheikh. But at the same time, they are all drawing from the same well of knowledge, all the genuine ones. And that's the important thing to remember. Now, I'm going to read from page 162, which starts the Sohbet, tap your underground springs. Mawlana Shaykh Nazim began, my grand sheikh, Sheikh Abdullah Fayez Dagestani, was speaking about the people of truth, al-Haqqani, saying that they are endowed with divine wisdom, and not just like ordinary learned people who parrot the knowledge they learned from books without understanding what they teach. The Prophet ﷺ said, every one of us has been given wisdom treasures in his heart, but if he does not wish to dig them out, they will remain hidden. Buried in his heart, nothing will become apparent of these fountains of wisdom. Take, for example, a person who owns a piece of land, beneath which are to be found abundant springs. But if he has never done any digging in that plot of land, never explores it for water, then he will never find those springs, nor will he benefit from them. One needs to work and tire to get to that water. Some land is easy to dig, and some land is much more difficult. But we know that the harder the ground, the sweeter and purer the water. See the analogy there that Mawlana Shaykh Nazim is using? Springs, springs, the pure spring water, it comes from the land. Actually, it's found in many places. But if you don't dig for it, you won't even know necessarily that it's there. And you certainly won't be able to have a well to bring it out. But Mawlana Shaykh Nazim is highlighting that some land is easy to dig, and you can still get the spring water. But some land is more difficult to dig, and the more difficult land is going to give you the sweeter water. But this is an analogy that the Sheikh is using. I mean, it's in life, we're going to have many difficulties. The land of life might be all sorts of things. It might be challenges at work. It might be challenges that we face in academia. It might be challenges we face, whatever kind of path or career we choose. And it's also true, obviously, of the spiritual path. And the more difficult it is for us, then the sweeter the water will be. In other words, the more reward that we will get for it. And that is both here and also in paradise, if it's good stuff that we're doing. The Holy Prophet ﷺ says, if a person can be totally sincere with his Lord for 40 days, Allah Almighty will open his heart to divine wisdom, so that this person's speech will be with divine wisdom. It is not easy to attain sincerity in worship, but it is the most important aspect of it. As Allah states in the Holy Quran, is it not Allah to whom belongs the pure religion? Allah Almighty is asking his servants to worship him with true sincerity. Now, what exactly does it mean to be sincere in our actions? When you are buying butter, you ask whether it is full of impurities, pure or mixed with other fats. And if it is mixed, you don't accept it as butter. Likewise, if a person in the course of his day mixes his good actions and obedience to the Lord's commands with bad actions and disobedience that Satan and his ego push him into, then even his good actions will become impure. But if you can keep every action in line with Allah's commands for 40 days, then according to your purity, Allah has promised you divine wisdoms from his treasures. What is involved in keeping sincerity for 40 days? It is not so easy. You must keep your eyes, tongue, ears, and all your limbs and organs. You must also be over your heart, that bad darkness do not come upon it while you are heedless. It requires great patience. But once Allah has opened your heart, he will never seal it up again. He keeps pouring forth forever. This actually is the most important thing, especially in this day and age, because sometimes today it is really not easy to, especially with things like TikTok and everything around us, it's not so easy to keep everything pure that you see, but make sure it doesn't enter into your heart. You see something is no good, if you then ask Allah's forgiveness. Keep trying. And in a way, I mean, this has always been the case. I mean, this modern media that has flooded us with all sorts of images and sounds, things which can be tempting. It's a modern method of delivery, you could say. But it's not like these things didn't exist before. It's just it was less prevalent, and you could avoid the marketplace, at least a lot of the time. But you wouldn't be able to avoid the marketplace all the time, because you would need something from the market. But there was that option in the past. I mean, even sheikhs, and I'm sure I've read something in Hadith before about the Prophet Muhammad SAW talked about being careful in the marketplace and avoiding it at certain times. And this is because in those days that would have been the place where you would see a lot of this stuff that would be verging on the sinful, or at least impure, even if it's not sinful necessarily. And certainly the marketplace is a place of dunya, it is a place of worldly things, which although not necessarily evil in themselves in many cases, they can lead to temptation and lead to evils. But today, I mean, we are bombarded with this from every direction. If you turn on the television, it's there. If you turn on your computer and go on the internet to do something halal, you will get adverts come up which are not necessarily halal, even when your intention is purely on something which is halal. And then you can go onto social media, and this is going to be something which we're going to encounter. We have to accept that that is the world that we're living in. And the thing that we're finding now, I mean, with some of the new technologies which are coming out, it's going to become even more immersive than what it is today in the next decade or so. And if we completely cut ourselves off from all of that, we're going to find that we're not going to be able to work, even to work. Because even now, it's kind of like that. It's difficult. Because this is so pervasive, it's everywhere. And we have to engage with these systems in order to do our work. So, firstly, yes, it's not so simple to stay absolutely sincere with Allah for 40 days. It's certainly not so easy to keep things as some of the pious people in the past would have done. But the thing we can do is try and protect our heart and not let the worst of these things enter into our heart, to keep a focus here. And Allah knows the challenges that we're facing. Allah knows the difficulties that we're facing. And be honest with that in your prayers, in conversation with Allah. Don't try to pretend that we're something that we're not, because we're all sinful. We all make mistakes. If you at least be like that in your conversations and your prayers with Allah, be straight, be honest. I mean, if you can't be honest with yourself and you can't be honest with Allah, who can you be honest with? This is the most important to be honest with. And the honesty is connected to sincerity. And as Mawlana Shaykh Nazim says, once the heart is open, he will no longer be in need of studying so many books, but rather books may be written from his sayings. Once one has reached this station, one's knowledge is always fresh, not stale, and like easily digestible and delicious food, which delights those who eat it, not like stale, old food, which has been sitting on a shelf for years. The words of saints are always fresh because they are continually absorbing new knowledge from the Prophet ﷺ's heart. Now, such people are very few, and most of them are hidden, while many other people are dishing out old, stale knowledge, which no one derives any benefit from. Hearts always long for the living teaching, but that is only to be found with a very few. It's a very important point as well, because books are important. Books are useful. And yes, I know I'm reading a book now. But at the same time, I'm someone who has a connection with the Sheikh who wrote the book. I'm someone who has spent time with deputies of Mawlana Shaykh. From if you're only reading a book, there's nothing wrong with reading books. Mawlana Shaykh Nazim himself read a lot of books and annotated in them. There's a library in Lefke at his home. But it's what this means is that some people will read books and they're just regurgitating what's in the book. Anybody can do that. Some people they went to a college or a madrasa and learned by rote. They learned what they were told, they wrote it down, and just repeated what they were told. But real understanding is when you can take what is in a book, but you also have a wisdom that doesn't just come from the words which are in the book. And this wisdom is something which we can gain from spending time with a good teacher. It starts with our parents, actually. Our parents are our first teachers. Teachers at school, spiritual teachers. A lot of people have wisdom, but at least something, And our elders, especially like grandparents and elders within the community, but also from life's experiences. If we learn from all of these things, then we can build up wisdom. And this wisdom can help us to understand what is written in books. If we only have what's written in books and we lack this wisdom, then that's when we just become like parrots. Sounds like a bit of an insult to parrots, to be honest, because I'm sure parrots are a lot cleverer than people give credit. In the Holy Quran, there are endless oceans of knowledge from which everyone may always take new knowledge. And through its verses, all of the people from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until the end of time may find all the guidance they ever need. Those people who have been granted divine wisdom may give unto people, in accordance with their capacities, what they may need to know of the secrets contained in the Quran, may give them what they might otherwise overlook and remain ignorant of. Therefore, when you are in the presence of such a person, you may think that he is addressing you personally and directing his speech at exactly the things you are in need of hearing, and that are pertinent to your life. In fact, everyone may think that the Sheikh's words are directly aimed at him, and this is a miracle given to those who have attained divine wisdom. They may give you whatever you are in need of. Perchance you might hear something from him that you never thought of before, but upon hearing it, it will seem to you as though you had just been thinking about that very thing. Yes, the Holy Quran is a living scripture. It's a scripture which, even though it's a book, even though it's written on paper, there is something miraculous about the Holy Quran that you can read it, and it's like it speaks to you in the moment. This is something which has always struck me about the Quran, and it's one of the things I've always found the most impressive about it. And there are endless oceans of knowledge in the Quran, and many things that we've still yet to understand and fully explore, that the Quran has given us clues to start us on that voyage of exploration. And this is a miracle that we find in the Quran. And so this is what Mawlana is saying, that everyone may always take new knowledge, and through his verses, all of the people from the time of the Prophet until the end of time may find all the guidance that they ever need. And then Mawlana Shaykh Nazim says, those people who have been granted divine wisdom may give something from that to people in accordance with their capacities. Now, this is a meaning that there's different levels that sheikhs have, there's different levels that people have who have been granted a divine wisdom. But those who have been granted something. And that something may be a benefit to others. And as the Sheikh says, may give them what they might otherwise overlook and remain ignorant of. That's all it really is. It's not even that they know everything, because they don't. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. Among humans, no one knew more than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Allah poured into his heart knowledge and wisdoms, beyond even what we have written in books, because I'm sure there's stuff that wasn't even preserved. And this would have gone on even into his soul, even past his passing on this earth. But it's that act of being able to give someone something which is true, which is real, which is important for that person or a benefit to them, which they would otherwise be ignorant of, they wouldn't be aware of. If someone is doing that, they are a teacher. And it doesn't mean that, some people will say, oh, but you compare that teacher to this teacher and that teacher's got more knowledge. And well, of course they have. But were you listening to that teacher, and was that teacher affecting or that person or that student, In some cases, that teacher has more knowledge, but his knowledge is not accessible to another student from another place who speaks in a different way, who understands things in a different way, whereas someone else can help them. Someone who has more of an understanding of where they're coming from, or how they speak, how they explain things. And if they can help them to see the things that they might otherwise overlook and help them move forward in their life and in their spiritual journey, they are a teacher, and they're benefiting them. The things that you are in need of in hearing, and that are pertinent to your life. Mawlana continues, if, however, someone is incapable of digging out the wisdom springs from his heart, then he may talk from A to Z and benefit no one. Indeed, he might even do someone harm. He is like a pharmacist who has so many drugs on the shelves, but is not qualified to prescribe them. If someone comes to him saying, I am ill, can he just give him any potent medicine? No, he can't. And if he were to do so, the patient might well die from it. He must say, see a doctor if you are ill. Otherwise, he may be criminally exceeding his limits. So many learned people have memorized the entire Quran with accompanying exegesis, tafsir, legal decisions, and jurisprudential interpretation, fiqh and fatwa, along with 1,000 traditions of the Prophet ﷺ, hadith. But if they don't have the wisdom to know how these may be beneficially dispensed to people, if they don't know how much of which medicine is appropriate for each of the patients, then they had better first study the science of diagnosis and treatment before they dispense drugs or accumulate even more drugs uselessly on their shelves. This is so relevant. Said 40 years ago, but it's so relevant. How many people do we have like that, who are professors of the Quran with, lots of knowledge of tafsir and this legal fatwas and knowledge of fiqh and knowledge of hadith, but they lack wisdom. They don't know how to apply it. They end up driving people crazy, end up messing people's lives up even more because they don't understand how to transmit the wisdom from those traditions. Whereas someone may have less knowledge than them in those areas, but they know what to prescribe. Being a good doctor isn't someone who has memorized every manual of every medicine that a pharmacy can prescribe. Being a good doctor is knowing that if someone has a headache, they need to take a paracetamol. For most people, it's the simple things that they need. It's not you don't, and even doctors, they specialize in different areas. You've got doctors that specialize in, the spine, in how the spine and how the bones are, and doctors that specialize in the eyes, doctors that specialize in ears, doctors that specialize in skin treatment, doctors that specialize in mental health and psychology and psychiatry. There's so many branches of this that people can study. You won't find, a doctor of psychiatry that knows exactly how to prescribe treatments for the skin. No, that they will send you to a dermatologist because a dermatologist knows about the skin. Some people, all they might need is a nutritionist that helps them to balance their diet, because a lot of things come from diet. But there's different schools even within medicine. There's no one doctor who's going to have memorized everything about psychiatry and pharmacy and all the different bacterial and viral infections a person can have, and all about all the cancers and all that they want. A GP, a general practitioner, is someone who would get a patient come in and identify what the person is suffering from in a general sense. And if it's a general illness that they can prescribe medicine for, like the flu or the common cold which can't be cured, but they can prescribe something which will help them, or something, some general simple skin treatment or something, or some general ear infection, a general practitioner can prescribe the medicine for it. Other than that, what the general practitioner does is, if it is a more serious dermatological condition, they will refer the person to a dermatologist. If they see something which is more of a psychological condition, they will refer the patient to a psychiatrist. If they see something which is more to do with the eyes, they will refer the person to an optometrist. So that's their job. They will refer them to the specialist that can deal with that, who has a more specialist knowledge in that area. No one can memorize all the books on any field of knowledge and be absolute expert in all of it. We're only human at the end of the day. And you get some extraordinary individuals that can master more than one field, but aside from that, it's not the general reality. That science is about dispensing drugs and stuff. That science is to be learned at medical school, not pharmacy school. In other words, at the feet of a sheikh and under his direction, not at the dry lectures of clerics and scholars who put one to sleep on the spot. Only those people who have divine wisdom are the real doctors who can cure the illnesses of our egos. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Allah bless Grand Sheikh Mawlana Shaykh Nazim. Bless his soul and raise his station in paradise. And Alhamdulillah, he's left us these gems, these hidden treasures. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. And raise his station in paradise. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope this benefits you. If it does and you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and other channels. And my website at paulusarmstrong.com. Again, this was the book. It's not so easy to get hold of these days. Might be available in some second-hand copies from some second-hand book retailers online. But it's really lovely book. Alhamdulillah. So wherever you are in the world, I wish you a very good day or good evening. Or it's on Monday. I will be doing my weekly Sohbet and Sufi meditation. The university is closed, so it won't be possible to come into the university to do that. I mean, I could probably go in my office if I need a quiet space. I'm not sure whether I'll go in on Monday to do some work anyway, but it is a bank holiday, so the university is technically closed. So most likely I'll be doing it from home, but it'll be online anyway. And the week after, I'll be back at the university where people can join me if they wish. So wherever you are in the world, I wish you all Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of God be with you all.